everybody, Steve Grandizio, the managing director of the Prelude Cares Network here at Prelude Solutions, and I am honored to have Michael Marrone here from the Liguori Academy. What's up, Mike?
How you doing, Steve? Steve, I appreciate you do the Italian expression Marrone and not just Marrone. So good for you, Steve. Everybody's on to another.
There you go. Yeah, I get Grandizio all the time, and it's Grandizio. So,
yeah, good job, bud.
And Mike or Michael? What do you prefer?
Good. Yeah,
Michael.
Michael's good. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Cool. I'll make sure that I say Michael. So, I have the good fortune of being able to have visited Liguori and kind of know the backstory and everything, but I'd love to share that with our audience. So, sure. Michael, you grew up in South Philly. Tell us about your background, because I don't think we could talk Liguori without knowing about Michael Marrone.
100%. That's it. So I grew up in South Philadelphia. I'm one of three boys, middle child, smallest in height and weight and everything else.
And by the way, for people who can't see, you're a big guy too. So
absolutely. So wonderful family that valued education. I went to St. Monica's grade school here in South Philly. I went to St. John Newman High School, went on to LaSalle University, and I studied education when I was at LaSalle. I always wanted to be a teacher. And a large part of it is because I had good influence of people who were teachers growing up. And so I went to LaSalle, majored in education, loved living there, joined a fraternity, the whole college experience got out of my system because, Animal House was the movie growing up that we all idolized, right? So I went to LaSalle, tried to imitate that lifestyle a little bit, but didn't work. Majored in education and social studies. And then when I graduated, my first teaching experience was North Catholic High School, where I spent 8 years at North Catholic. I grew in love with the area and the neighborhood of being in Kensington, being in a community that may have some folks who are marginalized, but this being in a community that was rich with tradition in education. I always favored in the education system, at least the Catholic school system, they had a tracking system. And 5A, first and second, were your college-bound kids. Third, we're not sure. Fourth, they're not going to go to college. We're just going to get through high school, get the bare basics, and some of them would take up a trade and have that half day. So I favored the lower track students because they were really honest to God. And I know this might be controversial for some people, but they were the smartest because they didn't have maybe the skill set of memorization. They had the skill set of creativity. Like they engaged themselves so much differently in the learning experience than the students in the upper track who just wanted the rote memorization, regurgitating back facts. So I grew in love with that population of students, and it really never left me. It was an influence on me that I knew that there existed all these students that are out there that for whatever reason were being scored as dumb, but in actuality, they were the most intelligent group of students you could probably meet in your life. So that no one was tapping on that part of the intelligence. So I spent my 8 years there, and then I went through a discernment process. I entered St. Charles Seminary to study to be a Catholic priest of the Archdiocese of Philadelphia. I did that, and I'm very grateful for that experience. I had the opportunity to work again with people from marginalized communities. I worked in hospice. I worked in prison ministry, so I had a variety of different experiences that kind of set my pathway to a population or people that I wanted to serve. And I kept on going back to that Kensington community and realizing that in Kensington, it's what we call an education desert. And we say it's an education desert because there's not many choices or options for families. So you have the larger public school, and you have a very select group of charter schools that would be very selective in the process of admitting students into the school. But we're missing this whole void of other choices and options for the families. So I kept that in mind, keeping my education experience from LaSalle, keeping my education experience from the teachers that I had, and then I went and moved forward. And as I was moving forward, I just thought in my mind, the day is going to come, I want to start my own school. Not realizing all the work that's involved in starting your own school. It's good to have the ideas. No one's telling you about risk management. No one's telling you about payroll. No one's telling you about white papers. All that was foreign to me before we got started in the process. So what happened was my last assignment as a priest, I was a priest of the Archdiocese for 8 years. My last assignment was at West Catholic High School, which I absolutely loved. An incredible school, incredible community of folks. And this desire kept on growing stronger and stronger in me to start the high school. Well, the Archbishop and I weren't on the same page. So, I did what was best and what was honorable, which was to take a little time off, a little leave of absence to kind of figure that out. And we started to build this momentum in starting the school called Liguori Academy. Now, a lot of people say, who's Liguori? Liguori is a Catholic Italian saint. He's from Naples, Italy. Now, we're not a Catholic school. We're non-denominational. We have no religious affiliation. But Alphonsus Liguori was somebody who really had a love of people who were marginalized. He had a love of communities of people who were suffering or people who really didn't think that they were worth much. And so just applying that principles of Alphonsus and then the principles of education that I was learning and meeting with a group of educators, both college professors, psychologists, counselors, and saying, what would the next school look like? What would a school look like meeting students at promise and not at a deficit? And so we started to craft together this idea of what will now become Liguori Academy. And so we opened the doors in 2016. We opened the doors with maybe less than 30 students and 3 faculty members, where today we're over 300 students and with like 35, 36 faculty or staff members that are counselors and other auxiliary help and post-secondary. And our goal is to be a small school by design, to meet students at promise, not at a deficit, and not to be a one-size-fits-all to education, meaning not just to be able to offer a private school education that's for students who are necessarily college-bound, that there's a whole group of students who are not necessarily college-bound, and we lose them because everything is geared towards the college and getting students prepared for college. So that was the birth of Liguori. We opened up in 2016, 2 blocks or a block off of K&A at Emerald and Allegheny in the old Impact Service building, which was really neat because it's an old factory. So we opened up there. We retrofitted the factory. Didn't cost us any money to retrofit it.
I thought it was a school. It looks like a school.
Well,
it looks like an old Catholic school.
Yeah, the building that we are now. But we originally started in like Emerald and Allegheny.
Got it. Okay.
Pretty tough area to start a school, in a warehouse nonetheless. So our model was really based on an open format of education, where students can have like a hub and then they go out to rooms and then come back to the hub. So it was great. And we got the private school open in 2016, 2017, or during that time of 2016, we were approached by the school district to think about an RFP that was got for students, what they call a credit recovery for students who are over age, undercredited. Mm-hmm. So we did the RFP. The principal and I both looked at each other. We're like, we're not even a year open in the school, and we're going to start another school on top of it. So we did that. And in 2017, we opened up our credit recovery program, which is called Fortis. And so it's for some of the smartest kids in the world that for whatever reason, there was a disruption in their learning. So they want to come back and they want to continue picking up their credits, but now they're too old to go back to the traditional school. So we contract with the school district of Philadelphia to have 125 students on roll who we can work with within that Kensington community. We did that. Next iteration, we got into pre-apprentice programs. We got into C2L learning, career connectedness. And now we're moving into our next venture, which is building a community innovation center.
So, Michael, are the 125 or so kids who are kind of that reentry, aged out of the traditional, do they go to school in Liguori, or is there a separate facility?
No, they're there. They're there with the students. There are separate classes because their rosters and their classes look different.
Got it.
But no, they're in the same building. We coexist in the same space.
And, you and I talked about it. I have a niece who I always say she is obsessed with learning now because she found nursing.
Yeah.
And she hated school through high school.
Didn't
do great. And she is smart as a whip, like a really smart woman who just didn't thrive in the traditional model of having to go to math class and English class and all these different things that she just didn't love as much. And once she found nursing in college, she has it changed her. And I always, just seeing her, I'm like, why don't we find that out earlier? Because how many kids get discouraged and don't do well because they're trying to, put a square peg in a round hole.
So, Steve, to that point, that's an excellent point. And I think we continue to foster in education this model that's it's a one size fits all. Like, you're going to go here, this is going to be the pathway. And if you don't fit the pathway, like I had experienced at the time at North Catholic, if you don't fit that pathway, then we're going to lower you, put you in the 4th track, because it's like you're not interested. And really, in actuality, the intelligence is just different. And the intelligence is really geared to more hands-on learning. And that's what we try to do at Liguori. So we're small by design in the sense that we can meet the kids at a promise. We can understand what their passions are, what their interest is starting their freshman year. We are a workforce school in this also because our students from the time they're freshmen are beginning the discernment of workforce or college early on in the period of time. So they have these workforce classes freshman year, getting to know who they are, the school's values, the country's values, the virtues. What does it mean to Liguori? What does it workforce mean? And then as the time goes on, they get to their junior year, they're writing resumes, they're doing interview skills, and they're going out now junior and senior year on internships that are based on their interest. Mm-hmm. So then that comes back to us as a school. Again, being small by design, you have the ability to be creative in that approach, because then we're able to reach out to whoever our stakeholders are and say, here goes an opportunity. Can you host a kid for an internship? And they're paid internship experiences. So Liguori is not only teaching the students, but we're putting money back into the economy. We're giving these students the ability to have money, earn money in a pathway that's meaningful to their interest. And so the money's not coming back to the school. The money's going to the students. And in most cases, it's a deal breaker for them. I mean, I shouldn't say deal breaker. It's a real change for them because they're making income as they're going to school. No one's giving it to them. They're earning it. Thare working it. And so we're helping the social capital in the area, in the community, by contributing back.
That's amazing. And talk about, so you've kind of touched around this, but where did the idea of the cohort, talk about the cohort.
Yeah.
And where did that idea come about? Because every time when I hear you talk and I hear about Liguori, I think so many things, and the Catholic schools are the perfect example where, why do you do something this way? Because we've always done it that way.
Exactly.
Like that. And that's not always the right answer, but that's the answer we give. And it's the answer that we get, right? Is, oh, you do it this way because that's the way we've always done it. But it doesn't necessarily mean it's the best way.
Exactly. So the cohorts were in response, again, to making sure that preparing the students for both college and career, that they have an opportunity to really study the things that are of interest to them. And so what we've done is we aligned ourselves with industry partners, men and women who make up our workforce board, who have identified, in Philadelphia, the region, what are the areas? And it changes. We're constantly looking at it, evaluating it with this workforce board. But what are the areas that are growing? So, for example, we have a construction program. We have a digital arts program. We have a technology program. And then we have healthcare. So if you look at the market, and again, it's changing and it's evolving, but for example, construction, we have an incredible construction program. And all the cohorts that we have, let me say this, a student cannot graduate with just their high school diploma. So even though the high school diploma is an accomplishment, and for some of them, they're first-time graduates in their families, you cannot just graduate with your high school diploma. You have to have your internship experience, which means that you've met proficiency at Liguori Academy to be able to go out and work. And then in addition to that, you have to have your 3 industry recognized certifications. So, all of our kids do the Microsoft products. They get all that certifications. They're not the industry recognition we're talking about. If you're, for example, in technology, you're taking PC Pro, you're taking cybersecurity. We were very heavy at one time. To give you an example of how the industry partners help, we were very heavy one time on coding. But now with artificial intelligence becoming such, are the opportunities really out there for coding as they were before? So it's really watching those trends with these industry partners.
Yeah.
In construction, the students, we follow the NCCER curriculum, which gives the opportunity for students to have basic construction knowledge on power tools and tools, safety, ladder training. All of them do OSHA certification. And then as they advance in the years, it breaks out to electrical, carpentry, and also HVAC. So the students have opportunities to pursue them. But again, they pursue them with the idea that when they graduate, they graduate with those 3 credentials.
It's amazing. When I went through one of your really cool events, and my first experience with Liguori was the Taste of Liguori. And I remember walking into one of the classrooms, and you have food, that's always nice to to taste the food, but it was an incredibly mature student who was in the healthcare track. And I forget the third one, but he said he had an OSHA certification, a phlebotomy certification, and one other certification. Here's this like 17-year-old kid who already has worked an internship, worked a job. He's about to graduate, and he already has these 3 certifications. I mean, how much? And I think he may have been going to LaSalle. I forget the school that he was going to.
We feed a lot of kids to LaSalle. Yep.
Yeah, I can imagine. That's so cool. I mean, that's got to be, how different is that from any other school?
So I think that they're out there. So like, there's different vocational schools that do it. There's different college preps that do it. I think the unique thing is we do it not as a vocational school, not as a CTE school, but we do it as a private school that gives the students the options for both. So I think what's unique about us is that they're taking all their college classes, whether they go to college or not, all the college prep classes, but then they're also taking the courses that are necessary that will get them into the career pathway. So we're not saying you got to take this path and go that way. You got to take this path. We're saying, no, you're going to do both pathways at the same time so that you can pick and choose your senior year, or you go into an industry with an industry partner and you say, you know what, I have this experience. They see the certifications you have on entry level. That's the biggest thing, is telling the kids you have to enter an entry level. I think some of them think they're going to pop into these careers and they're going to be, the 60, 70,000. That may happen by God's grace. You never know. But also it's preparing them too for college. So it's giving them background too and experience to help them in that discernment process. We always say to them, go into the careers and then find an employer who'll pay you to go back to school or pay for you to go back to school, because let's just be honest, the debt that's out there today in America is crazy.
You're making me sweat by talking about this.
Yeah. Well, I was reading a statistic.
I know firsthand.
Yeah. I think the statistic I just read in Philadelphia, it was anywhere between 4 to 5% students complete within 6 years for a 4-year college degree. Wow. So you have to stop it. And then you look at other statistics that says that over 17,000 new construction and trade jobs are coming this way with all the construction taking place in Philadelphia, and there's not enough people at the table to do it. And I think what's unique now in our country is we're seeing, with the Department of Education changing, the money starting to flow off into the Department of Labor. And we're looking at that Department of Labor really is kind of like, the golden carrot, and saying, let's get our schools to this point where we're preparing kids for these entry-level positions. So it's, as much as there's a lot of things going on in this country right now that can scare anybody and cause doubt, there's a lot going on when you look at the Department of Labor and the areas that we're moving into in the country and preparing kids for the workforce. So I think Liguori, with this workforce advisory board, we're constantly watching those trends. We're constantly on top of them. We're constantly hearing. We work with Philadelphia Works, which is the workforce arm. We work with the JEVs, which also, provides opportunities for us through the Career to Learning program too as well.
So how does, let's say, a parent hears about this. How does a kid get to Liguori? Yeah. Is there an application process?
Yeah.
Is it highly competitive like other school?
So I'm going to be honest with you. It is competitive. We always have a little bit of a waiting list, but we always try to accommodate the families as best as we can. So for a family to, they come in, they call, they set up an interview, they set up a shadow day where we ask the students to come in and spend the day with us. It gives the opportunity for the other students to help in the admissions process as well as the teachers. And then there was an interview that follows up with that. We do take students from all backgrounds, all different experiences, even students who've struggled academically, because struggling academically is not going to be a good indication of somebody's success. Struggling academically is a good indication that someone may have a certain learning style and that it might strictly oppose the person who taught them. So that's why we do the interview. That's why we do the shadow day. We see what their interests are. Knowing also too, like, there might be a certain student who we might not be able to serve because of their needs might be so high and we don't have the staffing for it. So it's not setting someone else up for failure too as well.
Got it. And so talk about the cohorts and how are there going to be additional cohorts eventually if that's where the workforce goes?
So you know what, Steve, let me kind of give you an idea of what we're projecting and where we're seeing ourselves as a school moving to. So we were really blessed last year. The two buildings that we're in, or I should say the one building, is the old St. Anne's campus in Port Richmond, located at Lehigh and Aramingo. We had offered the parish to buy the buildings because we wanted to make it our permanent home. And in that process, we met a donor who happened to come to the school one day, and our kids, just being the charming kids that they are, charmed him enough that at the end of his visit, he was willing to write the check to pay for both buildings. So we acquired both buildings debt-free, which has really helped us now to expedite our next process of growth. And the next process of growth is for Liguori not just to grow up, but to grow out, and to create this community innovation center across the street from our campus, the other building that we have. By the way, both buildings, one was built in 1854 and the other one was in 1925. So they were built for Irish immigrants back in the day when the immigrants needed a school that had everything. It used to have a doctor's office in it, it had a dentist office in it, I had a ballroom on the fourth floor. So it was really said everything was so self-contained for the immigrants that they stayed within that community. So across the street, what we're doing in the adjacent building, it's called the ACE Center, the Aldrich Center for Excellence. And on the second and third floor, we're going to be building out a CIC, a Community Innovation Center, which will be a training center for kids in the trades, also technology and healthcare. And that will also be open to the public. We'll also offer to students from other schools who might want to come half of a day to spend the day with us and then go to those primary school where they're attending, Monday through Friday and all their academic courses.
And do you see the Liguori in other neighborhoods, modeling this out throughout the city? Because my thought is, this is, obviously there's a lot of issues in the city of Philadelphia, but a place like Liguori modeled out in other neighborhoods could be the centerpiece of revitalizing that neighborhood.
So that's a really good question. So we're looking at all different things, and part of this CIC is what they call spoken hub wheel, or spoken hub wheel, where Liguori is the hub, and we have kids who come from different experiences and different communities that come there to Liguori to take like whatever we offer in the Career Innovation Center. Also, we've toyed around with the fact, a big thing in education now is what we call micro schools, that are very small schools that are found in storefronts, old churches, that kids, instead of the option of being homeschooled, have the option to do a micro school. So it's smaller and it's concentrated in a particular area. So for example, let's just say there's a school that was dedicated to construction. You have like 25 to 30 kids who are constantly studying construction, and then they feed back to the hub, to the CIC center. So yeah, we're in a big process of studying a lot and looking and evaluating the zip codes. We have students that come from 10 primary zip codes, but then also looking to see how we can expand that out a little bit further. I will say this, that students now who come to Liguori, where we were heavily concentrating in the Kensington community, are now coming from South Philly, West Philadelphia, a few from New Jersey too as well. So word is out. It's a 10-year growth project. We're going to be celebrating our 10th year next year of the school. So it's a word is getting out there, and it's exciting because it's 10 years of the school and 250 years for the country. So it's a good celebration all around.
It's incredible. So what's the cost? Are you able to share that?
Yeah. So everything we do, and I think it's important to note that our tuition is on a sliding scale, which means it's on a need basis. And I will also say this, that not one student is turned away because of tuition. So that's a commitment that we've made, and that's a commitment that we'll continue to make. So our tuition is around $24,000 per student to go to school at Liguori. However, the majority of it's covered through the generosity of people. We have people who sponsor students. We have grants, foundations, but then also the Pennsylvania Educational Tax Credit Program, which is Prelude, and many, many other people support us in that endeavor.
You beat me to the punch. So talk about the EITC, because that was the easiest donation that Prelude was able to make.
Yeah, and I don't think people realize that they can. Put it this way: it's the only opportunity. EIT stand now. There's two EITCs out there. There's one that's earned income tax credit. This one's the Educational Improvement Tax Credit. It's a school choice instead of place of vouchers. It's an opportunity for people to support, or a family. So kind of go back, like, we are a school choice school. We want our families to be able to make a choice of how the money follows the student. The money should just go to a school and wait for the student to go there. the money should follow the student. So one way that they do that here in Pennsylvania is they take the taxes, the PA taxes, everyone's 3% PA income tax, and you can redirect that to a private school such as Liguori that can use that for tuition assistance. So it's a really easy process. Before in the past, it was strictly an old application process. You submitted to the state. You found out around October, November if you were accepted into the program. Now we form these what they call single purpose entities, these LLCs. They're businesses, they're pass-throughs that people can join, individuals can join. They can take their taxes. We have the credits. They pass their taxes off to us by December 31st. By March, they get a K-1 from us, and they use the K-1 to apply to their tax return, and they get 90% tax credit. 10% of it is a federal contribution. And if you have a smart accountant, that 10% ends up being around, you're paying $500 for a $10,000 donation. So it's an absolutely incredible way to make an impact by using your taxes. And I always tell people, you can take your taxes and do the pipeline to prison, the pipeline to unemployment, the pipeline to welfare, or you can give it to a high school that's going to prevent all three of those from happening. And so that's the EITC program.
That's incredible. Yeah,
it makes education possible. So for us,
how many students do you feel like are funded through your EITC?
100%.
100% are funded through EITC.
Well, I should say, excuse me, if you take our two Jersey students out, 99%, 90.
Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
90, yeah. So every one of our students receives financial assistance through the tax credit program. On our end, that's one of the things, Steve, if anything, the tax credit program kind of creates a culture at our school of gratitude, because students know, as much as it's your taxes, there's that 10%, but you're fundraising people to get their taxes. Because when you tell people about the program, they're like, oh, that's too good to be true. No, it's a program. It's a program throughout the state of Pennsylvania, which has now been duplicated in other states. They just have a different way of doing it. So, all this in hopes that we're holding out for the voucher system here in Pennsylvania that will eventually one day happen. But the EITC program just makes it possible. So in this day and age when people are talking about, making sure everyone's included, and we talk about equity, not everybody's living that. It's not everybody's living that. There's a diversity of income from families. And so therefore, how do we provide equity into making sure that education is affordable? Now, every student has money involved. Every student has stakes in the ground. So every student has to pay something, anticipation or whatever it is, but everyone has something to contribute and has a stake in their education. And then the tax credit program helps to fulfill and close that gap.
Wow. And what other way? I know you guys do events, and there's other ways you raise money. So if somebody's listening, how can they get to know Liguori? I know the Taste of Liguori is probably coming up. That's a really good way.
So, Steve, I think it's really easy for us. We always like when people come by, So I think coming by, visiting the school, then there's opportunities like the Taste of Liguori is coming up in April. We have our Boundless celebrations in October. And as you know, this past October, we had Earth, Wind, and Fire. That was not something the school paid for. That was through a gift of a benefactor, trust me.
Amazing.
Yeah, if it was up to us, we would have had like a broken down DJ from the 60s or something. And then there's just opportunities. We have open houses at the school. But I think a lot of it is just if you're really interested to contact us and set a time, tell us what's good for you, and come and visit the school, meet the students. We do have an open door in that regard because being a school choice school, we're dependent so much on the generosity of folks. And so therefore, we want to be able to open up our school, not have students prepared for conversations because they're usually very well prepared because they all are involved in that process. But just come and see what the school's about.
And who should they contact? Is there an email?
I would be the best person.
Email?
I would be the best person. So you could call me. You could email me. Sammy, who's our advancement director. All of it is on our website. So our website, the name Liguori gets a little tongue-tied for people. So it's Liguori Academy, all one word, LiguoriAcademy.org. And all of us are listed there. I'm the president. You'll see Sammy, who's our advancement. Our phone number for the school is on there too. But anybody can feel free anytime. And we welcome that, especially, Steve, like people who are in industry, because we love industry partners because they help us develop curriculum. They help us develop pathways to internships. They help us develop post-secondary experiences. So we have a committee of people called the Workforce Advisory Committee who help us do that. And they're men and women in the workforce. There's no certain credential you have to have. You don't have to have any degree. You don't have to be an owner of a company, but just men and women who come in and do like the interview process with the kids, or they'll help in the discernment of jobs and opportunities for the students. There's other ways you get involved in, like in one of our committees, or just coming in and mentoring to the kids. Or if you're an entrepreneur, coming and speaking to the workforce class. Every kid's in a workforce class every day of the week. So there's really a lot of opportunities to get involved with Liguori too as well.
Is Lawrence James is a part of that, right?
Lawrence James is an incredible part. So Lawrence is not only on our board of trustees, but Lawrence is also a member of our Workforce Advisory Committee, which we call LIFT. Mm-hmm. So yeah, Lawrence is a great guy. Really, really good guy, a thoughtful person, and a really devout person of faith. I really admire and respect him a lot.
Absolutely. Well, when you attract people like that, you know what the school's all about.
Amen. That's right. That's exactly.
And I think it's hard to go there and meet the kids at one of your open houses or at the Taste of Liguori and not walk away being touched by,
right.
By what the school's all about. You, without even hearing the mission, you kind of feel it just through the kids.
So Steve, you say that, and the kids hear that when they hear people say that, and that really empowers them, because we're not looking, I think in education, there's a very fine line between empowering and enabling. Enabling, we're giving a sense of entitlement. You're going to get it because we're going to enable you. Here, our goal is empowering future leaders. Mm-hmm. So that empowerment is coming through expressing gratitude, learning how to be resilient, and really being a part of these programs. Our motto of the school is Boundless Love. And the idea of that comes from Alphonsus Liguori himself, who said, there's a God who loves you. There's a God who does not love you, but a God who is madly in love with you, and therefore can make all things possible, regardless of who we are and regardless of the education we have, the background we come from. So we call that Boundless Love, and that's the motto of our school, knowing that the kids have all these boundless opportunities for them. And that's our job as a school, is to offer them. So having partners, having people come in and visit, are just opportunities of bringing them boundless love.
It's great. It's awesome. Well, any last things you want to share?
Yeah. So listen, we're expanding, we're growing, and so we want men and women to get involved. If you're looking for something in education, if you're looking for something workforce, looking for education, I think today a lot of people are concerned about education. The latest reports that come out on the reading levels and across the country since COVID happened have plummeted once again. And we were going this good trajectory in our country. We should be concerned as a nation. We should be concerned as a city that we don't even have qualified workforces. It's going to grow and grow, and it's going to open us to more and more problems in our country. So if you're one of those people, say, what do I do about that? Or come volunteer, come visit the school. You can support us just by being mentor. You could support us by coming and speaking to our students. Or maybe you're like, why do I want my taxes to go to the state when I can give it to this school, and this school could take the taxes and provide an education for students whose families normally would not be able to afford it. We do private school education a little bit different. We're offering private school education to families who normally could not afford it, as opposed to being on the main line or other schools where people can. We're offering it to people who can't. And so that's why all the partnerships and all the people, and it gives you an idea of the number of people that are involved with our school, the amount of support that we give to our students.
Michael, you know what? Thank you for not continuing to just show up each year and teach the same class over and over and over and do things the way that we've always done it, right? And taking a leap of faith and starting Liguori and really carrying out your vision and your passion, because it's an incredible place. And
thank you.
You can just feel your energy coming through the screen, and you can feel it in the kids when you meet them.
Thank you. So everybody, LiguoriAcademy.org, LIGUORI Academy.org.
And we'll make sure that marketing puts it right along the bottom while you're saying
Sounds
it.
Great.
So, Michael, I appreciate you joining me. I know how busy you are, and it's really thankful that we can share the Liguori mission.
Prelude is such a great partner. I think that's the other thing. Your listeners, Prelude's a great partner who invest in education. And so you invest in us. And so it's with gratitude to be on a call with you and on the podcast and to speak about something that we're both involved in. It's not just me. You now are involved in this incredible mission too as well.
Awesome. Well, I will see you soon, my friend. Definitely at the Taste of Liguori. And, I may be showing up. I know I'm meeting Lawrence here shortly for breakfast. So part of our conversation will be about Liguori, and I'm sure he'll have my arm twisted by the time I walk out of there.
Amen. Steve, thank you very much for this opportunity.
All right, buddy.
Okay.
Yeah, you have a great rest of the day.
All right, you too.
Take care.
All right, bye-bye.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Prelude Cares Network Podcast. The Prelude Cares Network gives back to incredible causes throughout the community, and we're highlighting those causes in this podcast. But the core of our program is working with companies like yours to be able to help you save money and give back to the community without spending a penny. So it's the true win-win. If you're interested in learning more about what Prelude does and the Prelude Cares Network, go to preludesolutions.com/giving back, and you can learn more. Reach out to me. You can link in with me on LinkedIn at Steve Grandizio. Follow us on LinkedIn at Prelude Solutions, and we'd love to be able to help your company and your organization save some dollars and also make a contribution to some fantastic causes. Have a great day. Thank you for joining.